What if ancient texts actually held a hidden code? Something designed to be understood only at specific pivotal times, revealing this like sprawling mystery that's baffled scholars for ages.
Hmm.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a really fascinating journalistic investigation. It explores biblical prophecy and its surprising, sometimes, well, unsettling links to our modern world. We're talking about Mystery Babylon.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive, basically, is to unpack the different views presented on what Mystery Babylon really is.
Okay.
We'll look at theories covering ancient empires, specific cities even, and then kind of zoom out to what the sources argue is actually a truly global system.
So getting the big picture.
Exactly. We want to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the key insights from the material we've looked at, giving you a shortcut to being, well, pretty well informed on what is admittedly a complex topic.
Yeah, think of this as a journey. We're trying to understand how a prophetic Mystery One evangelist called it a convergence in end time signs for the first time in history. How that could potentially be playing out right now, at least according to these sources.
Hmm.
We're exploring the links they draw to secret organizations, these apocalyptic riddles, and even, as they argue, maybe the secret to our survival and salvation.
It's definitely a powerful lens they're offering to view current events through,
Mm.
and we're here just to explore what the sources actually say about it all.
Okay, so let's unpack this. What is Mystery Babylon based on these sources? They do highlight right away that there are lots of different views.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of disagreement.
Some interpretations point towards, say, the Islamic Empire, maybe because of historical conflicts or certain prophetic readings.
Right.
Others look at the Roman Empire, given its ancient power and deep ties in the
A
Bible.
very common interpretation.
And then there are even folks who think it's the United States. Or, even more specifically, New York City, because of its global influence, finance, culture, that kind of thing.
Yeah, all those views are mentioned. But what's really emphasized in our sources is that while, okay, maybe each of those has some basis in truth,
Hmm.
they argue for something much, much bigger, a global understanding.
So not just one place.
Exactly. The perspective they really push is that Mystery Babylon isn't a single location at all. It's a, well, they call it a Luciferian world system,
A world system. Wow. And they trace that back. How far?
all the way back to the Tower of Babel. That's where they say it started.
And how did it begin, according to this narrative? What's the origin story there?
Well, the sources explain it as secret knowledge given by Lucifer, they say, to a specific elite group.
Okay.
Knowledge on how to control the human race. And the ultimate goal behind it all, establishing a one-world government, one-world religion, and one-world economic system. That's the core idea.
And this system, it didn't just disappear after Babel?
No, not according to this view. It's perpetuated from empire to empire. It flowed through, ancient Egypt, the Babylonian Empire.
Right.
And they argue it continues right up to today through groups they name, like the Illuminati, and this ongoing push we see for, well, global governance.
So that's why pinning it on just New York or even the whole U.S. is
Yeah.
seen as too small.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
just, it's considered too narrow, too limited to capture this huge global system they're describing.
Okay, that makes sense within their framework. So even if the U.S., say, merged into some global entity, it'd still just be part of this bigger Babylon.
That's the idea. And what about Rome, the Vatican? They get mentioned too.
Yeah, what's their role in this picture?
The sources say Rome is aggressively leading the way for what they term a counterfeit one-world religion and one-world government.
Aggressively leading.
But again, it's presented as a really significant piece, a major player within this larger global system. Not the entirety of Mystery Babylon itself. It's part of the puzzle, not the whole picture.
Got it. So it's crucial then to connect these ancient roots, like Babel, to what they see happening now.
Absolutely. And that deeper historical background, the story of the Tower of Babel and Nimrod, that's central.
Right,
Yeah.
Nimrod, who tried to build a tower to the heavens.
Exactly. And the sources describe him as an archetype of the Antichrist.
Meaning like a forerunner, a symbol.
Sort of a symbolic forerunner, yeah. An early example of this figure who opposes God in prophecy. And that whole tower project represented the first great rebellion against God, and crucially, an attempt to create the first global government.
So that's the starting point, the origin, they say, of all these ancient mystery religions, the cult beliefs systems.
That's the root, according to this perspective. And then Babylon, as a concept or a reality, keeps popping up throughout the Bible.
Right, like King Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom.
Yes, and then symbolically through Rome, Greece, And eventually it reemerges in the book of Revelation as Mystery Babylon or Babylon the Great.
Which they call one of the most profound mysteries in the Bible.
It is. And this big historical narrative then leads us right up to what the sources see as modern examples.
Okay, like what?
Well, they point to the Club of Rome, for instance, dividing the world into 10 regions,
10 regions.
a concept they claim was adopted by the United Nations. And they even cite the European Union as a kind of successful model for other global regions around the world that might follow.
Wow, and linking that to biblical prophecy, that's quite a connection.
It is, because the Bible, as they interpret it, talks about these 10 kingdoms and the Antichrist being the head of this during the tribulation.
So for them, this isn't just abstract theory, it's playing out now.
Yes, they frame it as a very real clash. They emphasize this growing conflict between, quote, globalists and patriots or nationalists.
And they mention specific events.
They do. They point to Brexit, the election of Donald Trump. These are seen as key moments where this underlying conflict suddenly became, as they put it, the biggest story in the world, really revealing this struggle.
It really shows how they connect these ancient ideas directly to, well, headline news.
Absolutely, giving it all a very specific interpretation.
What's really striking here is how they connect something as, foundational as biblical prophecy straight to current politics. They talk about the completion of Babylon happening now with what did they call it? A hyper-escalation or acceleration?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the term. Especially, they note, since the election of Donald Trump, they describe this central battle playing out in the news.
Involving.
The media, Trump, and these secretive elite globalists who, in their view, are pushing for globalism.
And the United Nations fits into this. How?
It's brought into sharp focus. The sources allege the UN was actually founded for the creation of a one-world government,
Founded for that purpose.
and that it possesses what they term a Luciferian core.
Wow. That's strong language.
It is.
Yeah.
And they offer a very specific, you have to say controversial detail to back this up. They claim Lucifer Publishing was founded on UN grounds.
Lucifer Public.
Yes, and its purpose, according to them, was to disciple the world leaders into worshiping Satan through the teachings of Madame Blavatsky.
Okay, that is a very specific and serious allegation from these sources.
It absolutely is.
So from this viewpoint then, Trump gets attacked because he's not a globalist, because he wants to put America first.
That's the claim, that his stance is seen as a direct threat to this globalist agenda.
And the sources explain why this agenda is seen as so fundamentally opposed, right, going back to the original Babylon.
Exactly. They trace it back to Nimrod's system. They argue God judged that original Babylon precisely because it was the world's first one world government, one world religion, and one world economic system.
Driven by people wanting to be like God, Luciferians essentially in their view.
Right. And prophecy, as they read it, predicts Babylon will return as that same kind of one world system, government, religion, economy.
And they see signs of this return now.
They do. What's more, they claim that even things like trade treaties, NAFTA, GATT, the European Union, are described by the figures they quote as stealth mechanisms.
Stealth mechanisms. For what?
To create a global government under Lucifer. They even say that writings from the people behind these agreements explicitly state this goal.
That is a really bold assertion. And it connects, from their perspective, to why they claim 99.9% of the mainstream media is in full-on attack mode against Trump.
Yes, the argument is that the media is, quote, controlled by just 16 corporations, owned by this secretive globalist elite.
So the real story behind the news, according to them, is globalism, which they define as Luciferian.
That's the lens they provide. And it's really important, as you said, to remember these are the specific claims and interpretations from the sources we're looking at today. They offer a very particular viewpoint.
Right, we're just conveying the arguments presented in the material.
Exactly. And what really stands out in this section is their observation about media coverage. They say for years you didn't hear much at this specific angle on globalism.
But now,
But all of a sudden in the last year, it's just exploded. That's their phrasing. With globalists, as they put it, coming out of the woodwork and openly admitting their intentions.
do they give examples of that?
They do.
Yeah.
They cite Stephen Hawking's quote, "Without a world government, technology will destroy us." And also Marine Le Pen stating the divide is now between patriots and globalists. They use these to bolster their narrative.
So the bottom line here, from their perspective, is that this is all part of a gigantic spiritual battle.
Yes, playing out politically, economically, religiously, and affecting, quote, everybody on the planet.
Which raises a big question then. If this is a spiritual battle, how do these themes, this Luciferian world system idea, how is it supposedly showing up in our culture, especially in media? And what's the goal behind it, according to the sources?
Well, they definitely don't hold back in describing these cultural manifestations. They use strong language.
Like what?
They claim that what they call Luciferian images and messages have just exploded over the last few years.
Exploded where?
In Hollywood, TV shows, movies, music, even major events like the Super Bowl. They mention specific artists, Beyoncé, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, even Disney gets brought up.
Wow. And what kind of images or messages are they talking about?
The level of detail here is pretty intense. They describe seeing widespread, hardcore Babylonian occult satanic symbols, Illuminati symbols, images of Baphomet.
Okay.
They even claim there are actual satanic rituals being conducted under the guise of music, witchcraft rituals, and hardcore sexual messages, including things they describe as bondage-type things.
And the intended effect of all this, why put it out there?
According to the sources, the goal is twofold: to desensitize people, make them numb to it, and also to preoccupy them. They see it serving as an avenue for demonic control.
Desensitize and preoccupy. And they have criticism for the church in this context too, right?
Oh, yes. A very strong critique. They claim that 74% of evangelical Christians are, in their words, totally clueless, numbed to these things, and actually partake in this worldly content themselves. They describe the American church specifically as the Laodicean church from the book of Revelation.
Laodicean, that's the one that's neither hot nor cold.
Exactly, lukewarm, signifying, in that interpretation, spiritual apathy or indifference. And the sources suggest this condition is so serious, it would actually sicken Jesus unless there's repentance and a restoration of spiritual vision.
That's a harsh assessment.
It is. And Mystery Babylon itself gets another description from Revelation.
Which is?
The great harlot, or the great whore,
Right.
who, as the sources interpret it, fornicates with all those in power in the world.
Meaning?
Media figures, politicians, the Illuminati, basically offering them power in exchange for them willfully fornicating with her, metaphorically speaking.
And this is contrasted with?
With what they call the pure body of Christ, which is described as a virgin. So a stark contrast between corruption and purity.
Okay. And the end game. The prophetic climax described in the sources.
It's quite dramatic. They outline that Jesus Christ will return as King of Kings and Lord of Lords with the armies of heaven.
And then?
He will judge and destroy this Luciferian world system and send those who accepted the mark of the beast or willingly join this one world system into the abyss.
A very definitive, absolute end.
Very. And they go even further, sharing some truly chilling allegations.
Like what?
That a certain percentage of the elite at the very highest places are, quote, privately in secret worshiping Lucifer.
Secretly worshiping.
And they even allege things like human sacrifices, including young children, and committing all these abominations in order to gain Luciferian power.
Wow. Those are incredibly dark and disturbing claims presented in the source material.
They are. It really underscores the extreme nature of the spiritual battle they believe is happening.
So after laying all that out, what's the takeaway? What does this all mean for us according to the main message of these sources?
Well, they circle back to their observation that the world, the nation, has become evil, sex-obsessed, desensitized. That's their assessment.
And they contrast that with?
With what they see as a clear biblical command to be separate from the world, to be a peculiar people who do not have the appearance of the world.
So a call for separation, for distinctiveness.
Yes, and it challenges what they call the wishy-washy, watered-down church, and this idea of a New Age Woodstock hippie Jesus.
Instead, they emphasize a call to
be bold and humble at the same time, but to boldly speak the truth.
Boldly speak truth. So it's an active thing.
Very active. They advocate for Christians to rise up and speak truth, to quit watering things down and quit siding with the world and being politically correct, even if there's fear involved. They draw parallels to figures like Daniel in the Bible.
And they believe this boldness works, that it has an effect.
They do. They assert that when Christians cry out to God to fill them with boldness, they'll actually discover that they would get respect.
Interesting. Respect through boldness.
Yeah, they use this analogy of a bully, how a bully often retreats when finally confronted. They say the enemy runs when Christians stand in authority.
So the message is, don't just complain.
Exactly. Get radical, they say. Don't just be griping about it, but get out in the streets and blow the trumpet and speak the truth.
That's a very strong call to action.
It is. And there's even a powerful personal story shared in the sources. about one of the authors, Lynn.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
Her name, Lynn, Leah, backwards. It spells Leah's lion,
Leah's lion.
which she took as a divine sign connecting her to the Lion of the tribe of Judah, which is a title for Jesus. For her, it signified a personal call to roar for the truth.
Wow, that's quite personal.
It is. And they frame any potential persecution that comes from this boldness, not as something to fear, but as a privilege,
A privilege. How so?
because it's rewarded in heaven, and besides, Jesus gave his life. So suffering for truth is seen as an honor.
Hmm. And didn't they end that section with a question from a rabbi?
Yes, a really profound question quoted by Troy Anderson. The rabbi asked, essentially, there are billions of Christians on planet Earth. So why aren't you raising your voices more for each other? Why aren't you fighting more for each other?
That is a powerful question to leave people with, especially given everything else discussed.
Definitely. So the final call to personal action presented in the sources is really for you, the listener, to consider how you can do your part to fight this battle.
Whether that's through prayer.
Right, through prayer or just speaking out. And ultimately to tell people the truth about Jesus Christ. It emphasizes repentance, accepting Jesus, picking up your cross, walking in the spirit of truth, and obeying God.
So quite a journey we've taken in this deep dive. We've explored these multifaceted interpretations of Mystery Babylon
It's alleged history, tracing it way back.
and how it's perceived to be manifesting right now in current events, media, culture, all according to the source material, of course.
Yeah. And that core assertion from the sources is pretty clear, isn't it? That globalism, which they say is often hidden, is deeply tied to this ancient prophetic mystery.
And that it's now openly accelerating. It's a very vivid and for some maybe alarming picture painted by this material.
It is. So perhaps the final thought to leave you with is this. If, as these sources are suggesting, we really are living in a time when ancient prophecies seem to be unfolding,
Right.
and this profound spiritual battle they describe is intensifying,
Hmm.
what personal steps can you take? How can you cultivate that spiritual vision, that boldness they talk about to navigate these times and, well, make your voice heard?
Something to definitely reflect on. We encourage you to think about the insights shared today, maybe even explore the source material's themes more if you're inclined, but always keep in mind the complexity and the very different interpretations that exist around these kinds of prophetic topics.